All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Book Club podcast. Yay! I
Hi,
am your host, Timmy Irby, here with your co host.
Auntie Mena.
Yay! Okay, so today we are discussing the topic of friendships, choosing your friends wisely. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to start out with Auntie Mina kind of giving you a synopsis of the chapter. There was a lot in chapter three. And so, we're going to just do that summary and then we'll do a discussion. So, over to you, Auntie Mina.
Okay, hello. Thanks again for joining us for another episode. I'm excited about this lesson, and it says choosing your friends wisely. You know, when we were little, our parents used to be very particular about the kind of friends we have, and one of the things they say is, remember the child of who you are, because
Mm,
who we run around with depicts the kind of persons we are. So good friendship is very, very valuable. And we're not supposed to discard that after we get married. So that's why friendship in marriage is necessary. But we're saying choose them wisely. And statistics show that, sorry to say, most couples that have problem and do not walk through their problems to a positive conclusion is due to friends. I forgot the percentage again, but they said a large percentage depends on the kind of friends you have. If your friends are the type that, like the lady, if her friends are the type that say, why you can't take that nonsense? Why is he treating you like this? The woman is less prone to walk through the marriage. And if his friends are the type that say, hey man, let's go out to drink and all of that, he's also not prone to walk through a relationship, a problem. So keeping friends is important. You realize that when I say have friends, is friends. So we all have our friends. But when we get married, if we insist on maintaining separate group of friends that do not mix, like his friends are not my friends, and her friends are not my friends, they're not supposed to be. We're not saying they must be your best friends, but the husbands, the spouses should know about each other's friends. And so I would belong to uh, group, campus group. So our case is kind of different, unique in that a majority of our friends came from our years back in college. But when my husband traveled to the US for school, his friends were just separate. People I didn't know, foreigners, Americans, and here I was in Nigeria. But he did something because we were really particular about choosing our friends. So he made sure he introduced me to his friends. And when I was in Nigeria, before I even set foot in the US, I was already friends with his friends, especially his female friends, such that when I came here getting ready for marriage, I stayed with one of his friends, his a female friends. In fact, the wedding gown I used was brought by one of his friends. Peggy, thank you so much again. She brought her mother's wedding gown, everything. So his friends just told me, bring your own body. Just bring your body. You don't have to bother about the wedding. Such that when I came here, I I adopted, or they adopted me as their friends. And that way we had mutual friends. But he still had his friends, specific guy friends. I still have specific female friends. So that now we have a group of 5 families here. They were my original friends. But because we adopted one another, we were now family friends.
mhm,
So, why is that important? I said, when choosing friends, if your friends are the type that will encourage you to not pursue good relationship with your husband, or who will encourage you to still keep a little bit of that singleness,
Mm-hmm.
things that would put a wedge between your relationship. Now, the Bible said a man should leave his mother and his father and be one with his wife. Now, God did not even say leave his friends because that doesn't count. if if he's asked to leave his mother and his father in order to form that union, that bond, guess what God will be saying about leaving your friends that would interfere with the bond? And I said here, when deciding what kind of friends to accept into your marriage, I said supportive friends that are in support of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not friends that, oh, I'll never get married. Look at what men are doing. I can never start. If you keep hearing that from your friend, hearing that, it's going to make you feel, ah, am I missing out by being married? So your friends that you all bring into your marriage should be friends that are supportive, that offer constructive advice.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do they give when you two have problems? Because there'll be problems. This that's another offshoot to this offering constructive advice. How do you run to your friends anytime you have problem with your husband? If
Mm-hmm.
you are doing, what kind of people are they? And then those friends that will give you honest objective. It's not friends that will say, "Oh, you're girl." A friend that will say, "Girl, you are wrong." It's a good friend to have in your marriage because
Mm-hmm.
they will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. If your friends are, yes, 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 let's not make her sad or make her, let's tell her what she would like to hear, then they will not tell you the truth. And friends that are genuine well wishers. If your friend, remember you were all single, right? And if you are the one that got married, do your friends, quote, genuinely wish your marriage will succeed? You
Mm-hmm.
have to pray about it and see this friend, the way she's acting, does she really, is she happy for me that I'm married? Or is she wishing that she was the one? Another one is the friends that are prayerful and dependable, that you
Mm-hmm.
can call in the middle of the night when you and Mr. have a disagreement and you can't sleep. You call this friend and she can pray for you and advise you. I will not take whatever you tell her to the next friend. Remember, your best friend, you may say, this is my best friend, but that best friend may have a best friend also. So that is one of the things to watch out in keeping friends. Praise the Lord. So this is in a nutshell what we have to talk about friendship. But you need to choose. We're not saying don't keep friends, but choose them wisely.
That's good, Mom. You said so much. Um, and one of the things I like that you mentioned was that this idea of our friends, our mutual friends. And I saw you and Dad modeled that so well. And I think Auntie Mina mentioned it earlier, but this group of five friends that they've been friends for 4 decades plus, right? Just decided, hey, we're going to stick to it. But the really cool thing is that you look at the group and you can't tell who was friends first. You can't tell if the men were friends first or the women were friends first, because when they got married, the spouses got swallowed up into this friendship group. And so you have this solid friendship that they're all Christ believers and they've seen each other through thick and thin, through different continents, through different work and life and family types of scenarios. And so you just get to see that it pays to make a mutual family friendship type of situation. And I experienced that with my husband. My husband has some beautiful friendships, and he has, brothers that are great for accountability and great for encouragement. And so I have my older brother who passed away, and then my younger brother. So I don't currently have like a lot of brothers in my life, but my husband has these great relationships with like really God-fearing, solid men. And so now I have inherited this like brotherhood of really great friends. And at the same time, I have great sisters that now see him as a brother. And so I love what you said earlier about like having friendships that approve of marriage in general, and speak well of marriage. That even when I have single friends, they are people who believe in the sanctity of marriage. They believe in like honoring your husband, and they believe in headship and things like that. So I'm not having to say like, oh, I have to explain that I'm doing this for my husband. They're like, oh, no, no. I'm calling you, but your husband called you first. Go ahead and call your husband. Call me back. Like they understand the
Right.
place we have in each other's lives. One thing I wanted to mention is that you had a sentence here that said, "Good friendship is an asset to anyone, but should not be discarded after marriage." And I think sometimes as married women, there's this temptation to be like, "Well, I'm married now. Now it's just me and my husband," and you forget all your friends, and you only spend time with that one person, your husband. Can you talk about what you think is the right balance?
Yes, I in fact, friendship are built over experiences, past
Mhm.
experiences. And so when you get married and you discard those friends, you're going to feel so lonely and, in a way, despise the source of that separation inside, in at the back of your mind. Like you have a good friend, a best friend, and you always talk and everything. Suddenly you get married. First of all, alienating that friendship is putting her in a, that's one of the reasons she may not like marriage. Or if marriage separates us, like, oh, this my friend is so different, we used to. So, separating, you can be close to your husband, you can form oneness
Mhm.
without separating, being totally alienated from your friends. I experienced a partial alienation from my friends because I left Nigeria and traveled to here. But his friends made up for it. And then my friends, three of them were already here. So after the if I our marriage, one of the friends now was my dad. He gave me away. He
Mhm.
gave me away as
Just stood
if,
in the place of your dad at the wedding.
yeah, he represented my dad because my dad wasn't here. But yes, sorry, what was the question again? I think I
Um, I was asking like what happens like when you try to when you replace a friend basically with your husband and you
oh,
discard a friendship.
yeah. So I did, yeah, you have to replace some bit of it with your husband. Remember, I said you have to live to cleave. So you didn't just leave husband, parents. You must live in quote that tightness. Like, oh, you be on the phone talking to your best friend the whole evening or for hours. So when you get married, it's no longer, oh, I have this is the time I talk to my friend. So your husband needs you, you don't even, you are not available. One of
Mhm.
my friend came to visit us after we got married, not too long. And then I used to be her attaché in school. When you don't have your accommodation, you stay with that friend. So she was my master, quote unquote. And so we were very close. So when she came to visit us, by then she was not really close to the marriage. But the way she plugged herself in and she could leave us. Oh, these are hot couples now. So not, hey, what are you doing? Hey, no, she just knew to give us space. And then we knew to not leave her on her own. So it's a balancing act.
Mhm.
If your friend should not feel alienated, your husband should not feel replaced.
Yes,
That
that's good.
that's how we dealt with it. Say, hey, this husband of mine, this is his timing. He owns my time now, but my friend also needs my time.
That's good. I think that's good balance. Um, a husband should not be replaced. A friend should not be alienated. I think that's a good rule of thumb.
Right, right.
Like you said, And I think also just being intentional about having that conversation with your friend to say, hey, I know we can't talk as often as we used to, but I still want to keep
Right.
in touch with you. Like with my friends, I'm not perfect at it, but I started doing this thing called Friendship Fridays where I like check in with my friends, like, hey, how's it going? Any updates, anything going on in your life? And when we can remember to give an update, we do, because life can happen so fast. And then you look up and your friend has 3 kids or they've moved to, 4 different states and you don't even know what their new address is. So I think, like you said, if you don't want to alienate your friends, keeping in touch with them, but knowing that they don't hold the same space as your
Mhm.
husband, but that friendship can still be maintained. Um, and then with friendships, I wanted to talk about another lesson in there. Um, I think it's lesson number 13: share your marriage struggles selectively. So when we're talking to these friends, it's really tempting to just be like, okay, girl, this is what happened, and let me tell you what he did. I think there's this funny quote that's like, my mama don't like you and she likes everyone. And like, this is the same for my mom and for my sisters. If I tell you something, like if I tell them something that somebody did to me, because they're so protective, they won't forget. They'll probably like forgive the person. I have
Mhm.
moved on, I'm like, okay, never mind, sorry about that. But if I tell them, they're so protective, they'll be like, oh, that person, I don't feel good about them. So I knew that about my sisters and my family, because they loved me so much. When I got married, I had to be very careful to not share, small fights and things like that, because it's so easy for them to be like looking
Mhm.
at my husband somehow. Or
Yes.
my sister, older sister, modeled this really well. There are a lot of things that happen in her marriage, just like, just from living with someone that you've never lived with before. So she went ahead of us in marriage and she was like, oh, these are some things about marriage. Marriage is sweet, but there are these moments that you have to negotiate. And
Mhm.
so I had no clue of anything going on, and still to this day don't know many things. But some the private matters I don't hear about. And
Mhm.
so the relationship I have with my brother-in-law is great. But whenever they have something that they have to work through, they work through it between themselves. And by the time we find out about it, it's been resolved. And
Yes.
so I want to talk about that like discretion piece,
Mm. Mm.
because for me, I'm used to like just telling my sisters everything. So getting married was hard to be like, oh, I can't tell them that thing anymore. And so there's a verse, a line that says, it's natural for us to not vent to outsiders and be very selective about how we share our marriage. And it's a breach of trust to speak dishonorably about one's spouse to his or her friends or family behind their back.
Mm.
Can you talk about how you came to this conclusion that, okay, I'm not going to share, talk about certain things?
Okay. One of the advice my dad gave me when I told him when we started this marriage thing, was that he did not, since we are both Christians, he did not want to be the one first to hear about our struggles. We should try to go through our struggle with God and within ourselves before. By the time it will come out, then we had exhausted everything. And so he established that there is the privacy of the marriage is something to be protected. Keep your
Mm,
marriage away from the public eyes. And I think this learned well, because one of the things I used to tell you guys, even for families, if something within the family is happening and you go tell outsiders, when you make up with your family members and you're all smiling, outsiders will say, look at them. They are smiling and laughing as if they don't have a problem. You have forgiven your sibling or your family member, but the outsider still remembers the
mhm,
struggle guys had. So if you remember, I used to tell you guys that when you were little, don't take the matter outside. But here we put a disclaimer that when there is a case of abuse or your life is threatening, that privacy is what over
Overruled.
overridden.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel that the husband is threatening you or your life is in danger, don't keep that protection. That's a disclaimer we're putting out there. Yes,
Yeah.
it's important to keep your issues within yourselves, but if you see that it's getting out of hand, go get a counselor. I mean, before you go tell your friend that I
Mm-hmm.
outside friend, go to a therapist. They are sworn to keep secrets. So don't share your marriage. Some people, oh, Mr. There's a lady we know, she used to call her husband Mango Head so that they won't know. Oh, so you guess what Mango Head did today? Everything she will share. And so these women ask them when they her friends were at a party, they'll be looking at his head, Mango Head. What did he do? Sometimes they say, what did Mango Head do today? So you feel the man is
Um,
betrayed. Behind his back, he doesn't know that people are despising him because of what you have said. Meanwhile, so even if you say, oh, my man, mama, they say, look at her. She's pretending. You
mm,
know? So that's why we kind of seriously kept our secrets. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But
dang.
what happens within your marriage, try, and especially as Christians, tell the Holy Spirit, report your husband to his heavenly Father. But
Yeah.
that's not, if he still refuses, get a human counselor or therapist to intervene.
Yes, that's good. That's a good pegging order, pecking order, where it's like, okay, oftentimes if I'm trying to be like, Lord, my husband did this, and I'm talking, the Lord will be like, but then what did you do? I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so it often becomes that. But I like that you all put in a marriage crisis, when it gets serious, you need a mediator,
Mhm.
not a referee. Because a
Right.
mediator is someone who will be able to give you advice about the
Mhm.
situation by seeing both sides. And you talk about the need to find someone that you're comfortable reporting your spouse to
Mhm.
them. And I've seen you and dad model this well, because it's one of those things, as reasonable and as wise as you think your spouse is, there's probably a blind spot in their life that they just maybe
Mhm.
can't listen to reason, because maybe they're too close to an issue, or maybe they're very biased in a certain direction. I think it's really a good practice for all spouses to identify the one person that is like, hey, your person is tripping. I need to tell you that either your sister or your brother is doing this. And so I know
Yes.
that, my husband has a group of brothers around him. He has a best friend that I can be like, I'm trying to understand what's going on. Or, hey, even if it's not to report them, if you're
Mhm.
concerned about your spouse, maybe they're engaging in behavior that's like concerning to you, you might be like, hey,
Mhm.
could you talk to them? Or, can you just find out if they're okay? Because
Mhm.
there are certain things that men might not naturally tell their wives, because the burden of manhood, or things like that, that they might be saying to their best friend. You hope that your spouse is telling you everything, but sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't want to burden you, or I didn't want to whatever.
Yeah.
So it's good that there's a person who knows him well
Yeah.
in a different way. So you all modeled that to be like, hey, I should report you to this human person who
Yeah.
has the ability to speak into your life, hold you accountable, encourage you, pray with you, things
Yeah.
like that. Everyone needs to identify that person.
Yeah. That's one of the things at every season in our lives. I had asked my husband, who who is your friend, best friend? Another thing, who is one person that you would listen to?
Yeah.
Because he could have all these people that he's like the head, that
Yeah.
he's, but he's the one that tells them. But who is telling you?
Hmm.
Who can you listen to? And
Yeah.
so in our group, in our 5 family group, one of the things my husband kept saying, say, if I misbehave, me now will tell you guys, and you guys flog me, hold me accountable.
It's good.
He said that openly. And so if anything, I said, come on, see your brother, so
Mhm.
he can listen to. So if your husband is just going there, blah, and then you don't identify one person that he will listen to, then hold him down. Tell me who is that accountability partner that could tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
That's good. I think even the practice of in marriage, it becomes even more important to identify like who's actually your friend and who's a friend to your marriage. Because you say in the chapter, page 43, that you came up with a litmus test to know who to take advice from. So if you hear sentences like, I can't believe your husband treats you that way, or you shouldn't put up with that, or your wife doesn't deserve you, or you're too good for her, she's selfish, or whatever. Whenever someone is willing to speak against your marriage in that
Mm,
way,
mm,
I mean, for some people, you can see that as early as engagement when you
right.
were dating. What were
Mm,
they saying about that person? And then it's kind of like the Lord giving you like a red flag to be like, this
mm,
person is not a friend to your marriage, and you
that,
shouldn't be taking advice from them. So you also said, be cautious about sharing personal information with individuals who have a history of gossiping or spreading
mm,
rumors. If they're willing to tell you a rumor that they've heard, they're likely telling other
yeah,
people stories about things that you've told them supposedly in confidence. So yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. This was a good chapter. I want to make a note. I paused because there is a lesson on guardrails. Which
Mm,
lesson? Lesson number 12. Great chapter lesson. Lesson number 12, setting guardrails to protect your marriage. I started to talk about it and I realized the perfect person to talk about this is Uncle Ebby. So my mom and my dad did a really great job of being intentional about guardrails. So we're going to pause and have him come talk with Auntie Mina about setting guardrails for your marriage because I think it's crucial not only who you put in your marriage, but what systems, what boundaries you put between you and situations and people and things like that. So,
okay.
yes, Auntie Mina, anything you want to add?
Um, I just want to. I think there is one of the questions on our here that I wanted to question about friendship. Sorry, let me find this. I think 11. I said, how can you cultivate friendships that align with your values as a couple? That's one of our thought-provoking questions that I want. I wish that every couple would ask themselves that question and work towards it. How do you cultivate those friendships that align with your values, core values as Christians? And one of the ways that we pursue that, if you see couples that you like, that are mirroring what you
Mhm.
like to have, go reach out to them, invite them for lunch. I asked my friend to say, would you be my friend? She said, how can you ask like that? Is boys that ask girls, would you be my friend? But I said, hey, I like you. I want to be close to you as a friend. So if you see couples that are there, you may not outrightly say, can you be my friend? But say, I'd like to have lunch. I'd like to get close to know you. And by interacting with them, you'll be seeing something that no marriage is has nobody has learnt it all.
Mhm.
We still be even in our 43rd year, we're still learning. You keep learning and improving on your marriage until the day you say goodbye to this earth.
Mhm. It's true. That's good. That's good. So as you can see, friendships are very, very important. Even now, saying that to the singles, as you're thinking about your friendships, think about what friendships would transfer well into your marriage. Um,
Yes.
I remember there's someone I love that used to say, "Who cares what a man thinks? Who cares what a man wants?" Right? And so it's funny that the closer she gets to marriage, she's like, oh, changing her mindset about that. Because that type of perspective doesn't bode well in marriage, right? Who cares what a woman thinks? Who cares what a man thinks? You can't think that way. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting that sometimes when single people are in proximity to married people, sometimes they get to see the realities of marriage. So that's my encouragement too. As married people, we shouldn't cut out our single friends, because when we were single, we had the benefit of married people kind of bringing us in
Mhm.
into the fold. And so my hope is that more of us married couples would engage with our single friends, not to, I love to matchmake people, but it's not just to matchmake, but to also say, the Bible says he puts the lonely in family. And
Mhm.
so while you're waiting for your promise of marriage, connect with married people, connect with families, and get plugged in and build friendships that can transfer with you when you get married yourself. So yeah.
Well, one last thing I'd like to say, that passage that says, can two walk together except they be agreed, applies also to friendship.
Mhm.
So you can't bring a friend into your family that you don't agree. You know, you
Yeah,
have
that's good.
to agree with the person in most things.
Agreed. Wisdom. Okay. That is chapter 3. We're talking about friendships, getting wise counsel in your marriage, and things like that. Thank you all so much for being with us. Stay
Yes.
tuned. Probably we're going to have to combine a couple different topics for the after show, but stay tuned. We will do that later on this week. Thank you all. Have
Thank
a
you.
great night. We will see you in the next chapter. Take
Yes.
care.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye.